Would a great innovator give up so easily on that promised future?
I won't. I'll find a way to save us all.
Welcome to End of Dragons Daily. Man, this has been a good week for Guild Wars. So those out of the loop, there's a beta coming up in which you don't need to have pre-purchased End of Dragons or anything. As long as you have a Guild Wars 2 account, you can play. And you're going to be able to run through 3 of the elite specializations. As I speak into the microphone right now, it's going to be Friday tomorrow. They're going to do a big stream revealing more details about these. Well, throughout the previous 2 days, they've given us a ton of details, further follow-up information about the Virtuoso, which we already knew. And they've revealed the icon, the name, and a trailer for 2 more. These are all 3 that are going to be playable in the beta. We have the Virtuoso, then there's the Harbinger, is the Necromancer. That name you'll remember me speculating about during the POF era, actually, because Harbingers of Nightfall and so on. Well, we got the Harbinger, and indeed that was the Alchemist, like grenade-y-looking icon, as we guessed. And then there is the question of the Guardian, which if you've been watching End of Dragons Daily, you'll know I've speculated a little bit about with the cross swords. It is the cross sword icon. Those 3 diamonds are virtues. It's called the Willbender, and we have a trailer for that as well. So in this video, I'm going to run through the 3 trailers, pick out some of my first impressions and thoughts about what we've got. I'm really geeking out over this. Guys, I got to tell you, these trailers are very short little videos, but they're getting insane viewership and hype and discussion over on the Guild Wars 2 official channel, which makes me really happy. You know, these are the big things I think people are looking for when it comes to the expansion, so we're all really watching with bated breath. Right, let's jump in first with the Virtuoso, who I already discussed a lot about. I actually bookmarked this this page. I think I grabbed it from the Spud Discord a while ago, which screen capped all the original information we had, and I was thinking about maybe dedicating a video, like running through this. Perhaps there's something more appropriate for stream. You guys can pause the video, though, if you kind of want to ponder over it yourself. We're going to get a lot more of this kind of information with the stream tomorrow, but mainly I really want to talk about the trailer. Enough preamble, let's do it.
The Virtuoso sharpens the power of their mind into deadly psionic blades. Unlike traditional mesmer illusions, they wield these directly as magic projectiles. They deftly manipulate, deploy, and restore their summoned blades throughout a battle, staggering their enemies with conditions and control while inflicting very real cuts. If a Virtuoso ever finds their stock of magic blades running low, they can always count on the solid forged dagger in their hand.
So we've obviously already seen a lot of these animations in-game, and they look a lot blurry and less clean. I really like the way that they look in this trailer. I feel like they turned the bloom off or something. We get a lot of nice touches just outside of the Virtuoso itself too. First of all, that monocle, is that its like special gear? Is that going to be the unique armor skin that they get? There is obviously already a monocle in game. I just don't, my Fashion Wars is very weak, guys, so I don't know whether that's the one or not. If you listen to the background, I think we're hearing for the first time a little bit of the End of Dragons combat music, or at least it's some tense stuff that I don't think appeared in the sneak peek. So yeah, let's see what we got. First, this animation with all the blades swirling around. I'm not quite sure. Is this the utility that gives you long-term distortion and recharges all of your blades? That's going to feel a lot like popping, say, a Signet of Illusions while you have the Signet Grandmaster trait on. But here, this is what the blades actually look like as they manifest above your head. You can see you got all 5 ammo up here. You might think that the blades themselves like look a bit rubbish and naff and weird, but don't forget, actually in-game, your camera's going to be very zoomed out. You won't really be looking too closely at this. Here I find it really interesting as well. Look at what they have us fighting. It seems like we're in a battle against a phantasm of sorts, and it's beautifully adorned in this crazy looking armor. This is a taste of a Canthan enemy that we didn't see in the sneak peek at any point. I don't know whether it's a full-on boss. I think it might just be like the equivalent of, say, the Forge that ran around on skateboards in POF, you know, just something like a more dangerous regular enemy for us to fight. What is the context as to why we're fighting like these red-faced ghosts? I'm not too sure. Here we get this crazy vortex of blades. I think this is Rain of Swords. Or Rain of Swords might be the one where you like create the portal above their head and then it drops a ton down on them. It might also be Blade Turn Requiem. Here in this shot, you can actually see we're looking at some focus abilities. That's the Focus Phantasm, using its like Whirling Defenses ability. You'll notice stuff like that on all of these trailers, where what they've revealed right now are only main hand or offhand weapons. So they're always being complemented with core stuff, which kind of sneaks in a little bit at the same time. The one animation that doesn't appear on the trailer, which I think is a bit disappointing, that I love from the sneak peek, was the Sword of Decimation. They created that just one massive epic sword that does double damage if they're CC'd or if they're in the down state. This one here, this could be the Rain of Swords, I think, that we're seeing at the end now. So there's a little bit less magic on the Virtuoso trailer just because we've seen it in-game a little bit. I really hope that on tomorrow's stream, when it comes to these next two specs, we get an even longer look than what the sneak peek was showing us with. Also, in the commentary track, they talk now here at the end about the dagger itself, the physical dagger, which they describe as forged. Now, is that just like literally a description? It's a real dagger, it's not a manifestation of a dagger. When they say forged, do they also though mean maybe something to do with the forge from POF? Like maybe somehow this Canthan spec has got their hands on some of that technology? I mean, that would be kind of a bit of a stretch in the lore, but it was something I thought of as the trailer was going along. So there you go, that's the Virtuoso. Now, if I was going to do this video in order, I would do the Harbinger next, but I'm going to go to the Willbender. The Willbender was just revealed 10 hours ago as of me downloading the video for this editing, and so it's feeling very fresh. Let's have a look.
Willbenders protect the Canthan throne with unflinching loyalty. They have no time to play at war. If a threat emerges, they'll strike it down before it has time to react. They take the fight to their targets, using rapid movement skills to navigate the battlefield. A Willbender's blade work is unmatched, and wielding a sword in their offhand gives them extra opportunities for ruthless cuts.
Okay, so I haven't really looked at any of the response online or on the internet for this just yet, but as I watch this video, I'm really excited about something. First of all, you see it's very brawlery, very movement-oriented, very similar to what we saw Almora doing in the Icebrood Saga, which I really do feel like either they were knowingly nodding forwards or now they're nodding back. One of those two is true to the Almora fight. But let's have a look. This is a dual-wielding sword guardian. So you guys tell me, where do we see sword 1, 2, or 3? And beyond that, what else do we see? Well, first of all, I think the utilities on this... by the way, is that Infinite Light? Is that dual-wielding Infinite Light? I don't think so, right? It's a different skin. I think the utilities must be physical utilities. Like, look at this. This charge in and uppercut. That's like a rampage animation, like, attached to a bull's rush. Look at the giant, like, spiritual thing that comes up in the sky as well. We get these, like, weird martial art-looking kicks. So I think these aren't all weapon skills we're looking at. You might believe that they are, but I think that we've got physicals on the right-hand side, similar to how the Virtuoso was showing off a lot of its utilities. So here, by the way, you might have missed it. This is the animation that looks a lot like what Almora was doing. See this big, long rush in? That looks like a 900 range, maybe even a 1200 range rush. Really dangerous looking with the two swords out in front. And then they seem to combo it really nicely into a regular sword 3, right? Now look at this here. That looks like a sword 2 that's been comboed with something else, some kind of like slam ability. Like in the middle of the slam, we've triggered a swords 2, which is not an interaction Guardians have had up to this point. Like if I'm in the middle of casting a Signet and I sword 2, it counter casts the Signet, doesn't it? You can't overlap them together. And look at where we land. A regular sword 2 drops a symbol at our feet. That gives us fury. That is not a regular looking symbol. This is like a ring of fire. So I feel like the Willbender is changing symbols. That's my big guess right now. Maybe all symbols across the class now get a bit of a flame ring attached to them. Maybe it's just the sword main hand stuff that has been tweaked a little bit, and that's what they meant about breaking the rules. But that's definitely not normal, even though it does still feel like sword 2. The other option is, of course, this is just another utility, something on the right-hand side. But look how many like gap closers and mobility-oriented things we would have here. I can't imagine that all the utilities have that as a component. More brawlery, martial arty looking spin strikes. The enemies we're fighting again, by the way, are interesting too. They've got jade weapons, which are a very old Black Lion set. And it actually looks like we're kind of fighting Imperial guards here. Does that mean that Imperials and defenders of the palace and so on are antagonists in some way, because the audio in this trailer suggests that Willbenders are defenders of the throne. So who are these other upstarts? Who are these other antagonistic Canthons that we're fighting? Maybe they're not actually going to be enemies at all in the game. It's just that they're using them for demo purposes in this video, but I somehow doubt that. So yeah, that's a little bit about the Willbender. The name is kind of a weird one to me. I never would have guessed that as like a class name. I wonder if they've got an interesting idea as to what willbending means in the context of Cantha and what they're going for. But I gotta say, that looks really fun to me. As long as the tuning's right, that probably will be my favorite way to play open world going forwards. I love those mobility-oriented brawler playstyles. It's gonna be great doing some buildcraft on that once the X-Pack comes out. So, that leaves us with a Harbinger, who's kind of my favorite at the moment. You guys know me, I like the dark stuff, I like the edgy stuff, I like the grim things. Obviously, Necro was going to be good. Let's briefly discuss the name. I actually watched a Jebro video last night where he discussed this a little bit. Harbinger's kind of a funny pick for a name. Now, I like it, alright? And as I say, during the POF era, I kind of thought Scourge, that might be a good name for the Scourge if we weren't doing some kind of vampire thing. Vampire would have been good for Necro this X-Pack as well, because like the hopping vampires and so on that are around in the Akavowed Forest, I feel like they could have lent into somewhat. So first, just a little bit of history about Necro. With the release of the Elite Specializations, the first one Necro got was Reaper. And Reaper kind of, it works thematically and it's fun and it feels very obvious to us these days. But what's funny about Reaper is it's almost like a bad name because they already had a line about reaping. They have soul reaping as a line. But the devs just said, screw it, we're going to add a full line called Reaper anyway, even though it's almost identical to something that already exists. It's a bit like how Warrior got Berserker as a specialization, even though everyone was running around in Berserker gear already. The devs threw caution to the wind and they said, screw it. So Harbinger is kind of another situation just like that, because if you're a Scourge, there's a trait you can pick up called the Herald of Sorrow, which changes your Sand Shroud into the Harbinger's Shroud. It essentially turns your shroud from like a pulsing dot that applies torment each tick into a big charge up explosion that does some corruption as well. All in one hit with a really beautiful telegraph. And so Harbinger Shroud already exists. Now we get the Harbinger, probably with another Harbinger Shrouds. I assume the devs will be updating this and changing it. What's especially funny about this interaction though is that change to Scourge, giving Scourge the Harbinger Shroud, is actually a really new change. When did they do that patch? Like maybe 2 years ago or something? It was during the Icebrood Saga era, but it was probably the first half of the Icebrood Saga before they decided to do End of Dragons. So the way I view this is they probably really liked the idea of doing the Harbinger. Icebrood Saga came out and said, don't worry, we're not doing any more elite specs. So a dev just thought, fine, I'll add it to Scourge, whatever. And then later they got the green light for the End of Dragons itself, and they said, fine, no, I'm going to do a full-on Harbinger, and we'll just go back and delete the half-assed thing that we have on Scourge. So expect a patch for that, probably, just for transparency and clarity. But then again, they never renamed the Soul Reaping line on Core Necro, so whatever, right? I do think this is quite interesting as well in the context of Thief, by the way, because Thief got their rework to their traps that were all very Canthon and Asiatic inspired. Definitely feels to me like we might see a similar situation there too. But those details aren't out yet, so I guess we'll have to wait. In the meantime, let's check out the Harbinger trailer.
Some necromancers have always been separated from corruption by a thin edge, absorbing life energy to fuel their magic. But a Harbinger's methods are even more volatile. These skilled alchemists have developed elixirs to inflict blight on themselves, converting their own pain into power. In Harbinger Shroud, they gain devastating abilities while suffering from blight. A Harbinger makes no clean kills, wielding a pistol to devastate their enemies with noxious, corrosive bullets.
So, not too much in the dialogue on this one. Noxious, corrosive bullets. I do think this is a power spec, but probably with have a little bit of Condi mixed in there. I'm very excited about some of the stuff that I see animation-wise. I'm not sure what the unique gear is meant to be if we're seeing it. I think that's just Acolyte armor, Seer armor, whatever, with the blindfold. But let's run in. Here I think we see us entering Shroud. A big reveal immediately there that this is going to be a new set of Shroud skills. And we get a nice gap close. That'll probably be the skill 2, similar to how Reaper gets Death's Charge on skill 2. Here we seem to drink some kind of tonic or potion. I think if you freeze frame, you can actually see a little potion on there, nice and early. I'm guessing that applies some kind of like blight mechanic to ourselves. Didn't blight appear in the audio track? And helps us get into the shroud, maybe, or supercharges it. Here we get this fantastic flying animation. Right, we've had a lot of gap closes and jumps in the past. That jump is ridiculous. I mean, unbelievable. Follow up with a leap back. That's going to feel a bit like Ranger Sword, I think. Again, I imagine that to be a big power hit. That's how it feels like the Naga's being impacted. Here we get a float. This looks like a friggin' gravity well or something. A massive vortex. Is that the elite that we're looking at? I really wish I knew. You know, I think these trailers actually miss a trick. There should be a whole dedicated section at the end of each of these trailers saying this is the elite skill, this is the big, beautiful animation, the kind of keystone. I think people would have really got a lot of hype and a kick out of that. I mean, tomorrow we'll see on the stream. Let's replay it through because there is still a lot to talk about there. You will have seen some of the pistol abilities. It looks like you're actually firing jade shards as your bullets. I mean, when you get a legendary and it changes the projectiles, perhaps you won't see this anymore, but there's a lot of jade in many of these animations. You saw some swirling around us a second ago there. So again, this is another specialization that seems to be talking about Dragon Jade technology and leaning into it, at least in some way. I think the green aesthetic made it a pretty obvious guess that they'd be doing that with Necromancer. Here, if you look around our feet, you'll see some of it's appearing again there too. And the pistol as well, I do think I saw a stun. Look at this, look at how high we go. This is going to feel really weird in game, guys. It's going to feel very, very strange. You know, funnily enough, I think we're actually not seeing many utilities on this one because they have weapon skills to show, shroud skills to show. There's already a lot of animations going on. Utilities are probably a bit on the back burner, but I'm guessing this is one of them. If not the elite, I mean, maybe it's Shroud 5. It just looks very strong because I think that's an AoE float that we've got going on there. If you actually look closely, you'll see there's a dead mummy being impaled by spinning jade there. And so to run to the pistol, it looks like it's pistol main hand because this character's actually on dagger off. It looks like that would be a good complement. They're both 900 range. Dagger off is a Condi thing though, so kind of goes against the power idea a bit. But let's talk about this. It looks like it's main hand pistol, and it also looks like the pistol has a stun on it. So you're looking at a stun on a low cooldown? I mean, that's crazy. Think about, say, Engineer Pistol and how low impact those feel compared to getting a goddamn stun there. There's never that high cooldowns on the first 3 slots. So I wonder how that's balanced. Perhaps we need to be blighted first. Perhaps we need to proc or prep something from them before that will actually land, and we're just seeing everything's lined up perfectly in this trailer. But that seems obscenely strong. And don't forget, when these elite specializations come out, and especially you'll get to enjoy this in this first beta, they're always so ludicrously overtuned. I mean, it will be a bit of spectacle all on its own. Do you guys remember how insane, like, launch Spellbreaker was or launch Firebrand was during POF? It's going to be ridiculous. I actually kind of think with my introducing series this time, maybe I'll wait a bit because the original launch versions of these specs are going to be so overloaded compared to what they'll eventually be. I don't know. You guys can give me your thoughts on that. So there you have it, guys. The first 3 elite specializations have been revealed. Anything you think that I missed, let's have it down below. I recommend and encourage everyone to have a look at the comments, get in there and contribute. A big part of these videos is just kind of the forum section that ends up appearing below. Teach me what you know or some cool little Easter eggs, and I will be back tomorrow with another End of Dragons Daily with lots of these juicy details coming up from the stream. So thanks, guys. Hope you enjoy, and I'll see you very soon. Thanks so much for watching the videos, guys. I'll hope to keep you in the loop as much as possible, and I'll see you tomorrow.